Hello, hello. So it's lunchtime. Earlier when I was on my break, I actually heard, is it bad luck or is it just the toxic energy you surround yourself with? And it made me think about, I hear people all the time, oh, I got bad luck. And it's funny because whenever I was younger, even when I got married, I was 20 years old. And I told him there's two things you need to know about me. I'm a bitch and I have bad luck. And for years, that was what I believed. And he even came up to me later and said, "You're right. This is probably 10 years. And you're right about what you told me when we got married." I said, "What?" He goes, "Well, about one of them." And I said, "What's that?" He goes, "You got bad luck." and and I thought, yeah. And then one day I realized luck is not a thing. Like, as I started understanding how energy works, it's what you allow to come into your life, what you push away from you. It's what you're comfortable dealing with. So the more that you allow that negative, toxic energy into your life, then of course, the more you're going to notice bad luck, right? I wanted to say negative energy, but that's an obvious statement. Sorry, I'm sitting in the parking lot, so I'm like all over the place. I'm seeing my coworkers and bosses and probably think I'm crazy. I don't know. Everyone thinks I'm crazy. But regardless, I just want to remind you that it has nothing to do with luck. Your life has nothing to do with luck. It has everything to do with mindset, what you allow, what you believe in. If you feel like you're a victim of circumstances, then you're in a low vibration, because none of us are victims. You can get out of victim mentality by overcoming obstacles and going, oh, now I'm a survivor. And it's funny because I went from victim mentality to survivor mentality to, you know what, I'm a fucking warrior. And it got to a point to where I became unstoppable and I became basically who I am today. And I'm not even done growing at this point, but everyone's like, how do you do it? You're like Wonder Woman. And I always make the joke, yeah, I make you wonder what I'm gonna do next. And they'd be like, no, how do you do what you do? And I'd be like, well, because I got to do what I've got to do. It just seemed like a given that we have to face certain trials and tribulations and overcome them. But as I've gotten older, I've come to understand not everybody has the willpower or the drive to do that. I never realized that was a superpower, but that's also having to get out of the victim mentality. So when you can get out of the victim mentality and go, okay, nothing is against me, the universe is actually for me, or God is cheering me on, when you can start believing that you're not alone and that you can embrace those powers around you that are actually your divine guidance system, then you find strength in that. So like I said originally, is it bad luck or is it what you're allowing into your life? And the hardest part is a lot of times those toxic entities that are in our lives are attached to the ones that we love, because the devil will use those closest to you to attack you. And that is to make you question love. Oddly, that, is the one thing that the devil wants to make you not believe in. Why? Because in the end, love conquers all. So when you can start to see that once you can forgive others around you, you can forgive yourself, you can love yourself, then love starts to blossom and grow in your garden. And I read yesterday, stop watering everything, be the garden for once. And it made me go, oh my God, I never even looked at it like that. It was an epiphany moment of going, I am the garden. And within yourself, you can find that you can flourish if you can take back what you've allowed everyone to take from you, regain your power. And when you can regain your power, then you can begin to put that love back into yourself. Then you can begin to heal yourself and help yourself grow. When you're growing, then you're leveling up. And then when you're leveling up, you're beginning to glow, and other people begin to see that change within you. And Don't let anyone stop you, because like I said in one of my other videos, whenever you are starting to glow, people begin to notice, and then they're like, oh, you're strong. No, I'm going to stop you, because then when they see in you what they can't see in themselves, then they feel inferior. But when you do get to a higher vibration, you're not in competition with anybody. You're just at the moment to where you're sitting there telling yourself, sorry, I keep getting text. But when you're in that higher vibe, and I lost my complete train of thought because it was my boss, and it's one of the bosses that she irks me. And it's one that tries to take my power and instead turns around and is like, well, I can't irritate her. And I know this completely went off course because of where I was at, and then the texts start flowing in. But it can go derail to a good topic of the person that can try to irk you can turn around and you can watch their world crumble upon them because they're trying so hard to destroy you when you're glowing. And not to say that you can get satisfaction out of it. Of course, you might get a little kiki here and there, like, maybe you shouldn't have done that, Maybe you should sit down and heal and learn a lesson, And I'm not saying to wish ill upon others, and definitely do not find gratification in their failures. But that's a dangerous word. I always told my kids, anything that you say and then you use the word but, everything you said prior to what you are going to say is now null and void, and everything that follows is what you truly believe. I can't say that's exactly true. It's true. But when it comes down to other people, it's okay to celebrate and enjoy the concept that the devil is losing. That's the way that I can come to terms with what I'm sharing with you right now. Because no, I don't celebrate people's downfalls, no matter good or bad, but I do appreciate justice. And when it comes down to divine justice, there is an order to things. There are laws to the universe. There are ways that things function, and people have to learn these lessons. And if you don't know the laws of the universe, you should check them out, because if you're not playing by those rules, you're playing by man-made laws, which aren't necessarily just. So even Martin Luther King Jr., I've lived on his words for a long time, because there's man's law and there's God's law, and just because you're following man's law does not mean that you're abiding by the higher power's will. So a lot of times people that are considered radicals, or the people that everyone wants to stop, the rebels, they are the freedom fighters that are fighting for love and justice. And in a world that is greedy and corrupt and unjust, obviously they're the opposite of what is acceptable. So that's why when you do start seeing that you don't fit in, you are the black sheep, you are the individual in your family that is the Lone Ranger, you'll start to see why. Because once you see that people are fake and you don't fit in with them, and your beliefs don't correlate with theirs, then it gets to a point where you're like, oh, I see why now. And instead of feeling alone, use that as feeling empowered, because then, like I said, you're taking your power back. And you can get to the point of getting away from toxic behavior, because the thing that keeps people stuck their entire life is being stuck in toxicity. When you allow it, then all of a sudden, you succumb to it. And if you can look at it as putting dirt into water, like a handful every day into a cistern, eventually that water becomes muddy, and you no longer have a source that is viable for yourself and your well-being. It's the same with toxic people. You don't see what they're projecting onto you, but over time you feel bogged down. So then your whole existence becomes to a point where you feel worthless, you feel victimized, you feel like you hate everything around you, you don't want to get up and endure the day, everything is a battle. Life doesn't have to be that way. And it takes mindset, choice, and sometimes being alone. That's the hardest part for most people, because when you're alone, guess what you're stuck with? What's in your head. And a lot of times that is past memories, trauma, abuse, old voices, your failures. Because for some reason, it's easy for us to grab a hold of the things that we didn't achieve in life. And we often forget about what we have achieved. And it's funny because we don't even applaud ourselves. When we can begin to applaud ourselves, then we can begin to go, oh, I've done way more than I thought. When you're climbing a mountain, you never realize you're going to make it to the top. And when you get to the top, a lot of times the view takes away the concept of how hard it was to get there. Now, when you're standing at the bottom looking up, you're like, holy schmoly, that's going to take forever. But one pebble at a time, one problem at a time, one thought at a time. And eventually you'll begin to move mountains. But it takes not focusing directly on the trial or tribulation in front of you. A lot of times, to get out of your own way, help somebody else, and you'll find that things begin to work out in your world, or you can see that they weren't as bad as you thought, or you're not alone. But it takes being empathetic and sympathetic towards others and go, you know what, I'm not the only human being in this world, and I'm not the only person with problems. So if I can take a break from my own and look at somebody else's, then maybe I can begin to see even a solution for my own. Because we're more alike than a lot of people want to believe. We're all made of the same molecules, just a little bit different here and there. So I'm going to end it on that note. I know I probably went in circles and said a lot of different things, but hopefully that is helpful for somebody. And just remember, stop saying that you're unlucky in life. Rather, look at the toxicity that you allow into your life and go, you know what? I love me and I deserve better than that, and I'm not going to allow any more of that into my life. Take your power back. Peace, love, and light. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.